Hey guys, Zomfox here, and today we are going to talk about another player who signed with the NFL. This time, it's the USFL touchdown receiving leader, Isaiah Zuber, formerly of the Houston Gamblers, who is now part of the Las Vegas Raiders. As for Zuber in his career, he actually has played in the NFL. He played back in 2020 and actually did play a bit as a rookie. He didn't do a ton, but he played in like 4 games. He had 29 receiving yards, he had 21 rushing yards. So he played, he was decent, stuff like that. As for the and then he was in practice squads. And as for the USFL, he was the second wide receiver picked in the entire draft. He was the second pick, as the 13th round was the first round for wide receivers, and he was the second pick in that round. And in terms of his stats in the USFL, he was 18th in receiving yards, which wasn't great. But him leading the league in receiving yards, he was the only one with 5, is pretty impressive. Him being able to get to the end zone is always a nice thing. He did have, the constant, competent, not great quarterbacks, Clayton Thorson and Kenji Bahar, throwing to him. And so the fact that he was able to get 5 touchdowns and those receiving yards, while they also did, feature the run game for a bit while Mike Thompson was healthy, it's pretty impressive. And him being a touchdown leader is really a good thing, as this is one of the, aside from Stribling, probably the biggest name from the USFL to sign in the NFL so far. And this was kind of one of those signings that came like out of nowhere. The news outlets weren't really talking about it like they were for the other ones. But he has signed with the Raiders. The Raiders, the depth chart wise, is where it gets kind of sketchy. Because since he's a receiver, and since, this is like, the 90-man roster and stuff like that, there's a lot of guys ahead of him overall. The Raiders use 3 receivers, and then their starters are Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, and DeMarcus Robinson. And then second string, Keenan Cole, Mac Hollins, Tyron Johnson. Third string, Dylan Stoner, DJ Turner, Jordan Vesey. Then fourth string is Justin Hall and Isaiah Zuber. So as for those guys, they're pretty much into 3 different categories. VC, Hall, Turner, and Stoner have pretty much never played actual games or done anything. They're either rookies, undrafted, or heading into their first or second season. So, and none of them are actually, picked, they're not drafted. So there's a very solid chance Zuber could overtake literally all 4 of these guys. That's not even being a joke. He literally could easily overtake all 4 of these guys, which would automatically put him as, a third string player. So there is that. Then the second tier of players are Tyron Johnson, Keenan Cole, DeMarcus Robinson, and Matt Collins. Even though DeMarcus Robinson is a starter, he is in this group of players. These are those who are NFL experienced wide receivers. They've played a little bit, but they're not the, best. Tyron Johnson is heading into his 3rd season. He was an undrafted free agent. Keenan Cole is heading into his 6th season as an undrafted free agent. Matt Collins was a 4th round pick in 17. DeMarcus Robinson was a 4th round pick back in 16. As for each of them, Tyron Johnson played 1 year with the Chargers, where he played a decent amount of games, but he only had, a couple hundred receiving yards. He barely missed out on 400. And then last year with both Jacksonville and the Raiders, he didn't do anything really. He played in 5 games for the Raiders, and he didn't get any receptions. So he's kind of sketchy as an undrafted free agent who, had 1 year where he was like a 3rd string type receiver, 4th string, to then not really doing anything last year. And more importantly, I think the fact that the Chargers let him go to somewhere else, kind of sketchy. Matt Collins, he had that one incredible reception with the Dolphins, the Fitzpatrick one where he just chucked it up against the Raiders, ironically. He's been one of those, casual 4th, 5th string receivers. He'll get, a couple hundred yards a season, but nothing really impressive. It's pretty much been his whole career. Philadelphia, the 1 year he actually played there fully. Then he didn't play till 19. He was 125 receiving yards for both teams. Then the Dolphins, he had a couple hundred receiving yards. But I think what's impressive is he did have 4 touchdowns last year, despite only having 423 yards, so he also was able to find the end zone. So Zuber is definitely that kind of receiver in the USFL sense, but I feel like he could definitely be a better Matt Collins. Then you get to the other guys. Keenan Cole and DeMarcus Robinson are the ones where it's harder for him to overtake him. Keenan Cole has basically been a he's probably, I think, honestly, you could argue the best receiver of this group, because even though DeMarcus is the starter right now, and I know you can say, well, he played with Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Byron Pringle when he had those couple great games and stuff like that. overall, if you're playing on the Chiefs with Mahomes and even back to the 2 years of Alex Smith, to never have more than 500 yards receiving while you're actually playing in most games, especially when you start over half the season 3 times and half the season 4. Yeah, I feel like not having 500 yards in a season at all isn't honestly the best look for you. This is one of those guys who you could say maybe in a higher role could do better, but I feel like he should have done much more than he actually did during his time at KC. So, kind of sketchy. Keenan Cole, however, he played pretty much with just the Jacksonville Jaguars. Blake Bortles, Cody Kessler, Gardner Minshew, Nick Foles. Basically, this wide array of quarterbacks, barring from 2017 to 2020. Yet, despite being an undrafted free agent, he literally put up over 400 yards every year but his third year. His third year, he only started 1 game. But overall, when you look at him, this is a guy who, his stats do show he's a very solid receiver. To consistently have 400 yards receiving, especially with the kind of quarterbacks he had, and then with the Jets last year with, a rookie throwing to him, he had 449 yards. Impressive. He's definitely solid. I definitely think that it'll be really stretching to say that Zuber overtakes him. And, the top 2, there's no way. Hunter Renfrow just had his first Pro Bowl season. He's been a solid receiver. He's another late-round pick. And last year he had 1,000 yards. He's just been pretty much getting better every year. And Devontae Adams, most people do view him as the single best receiver in football right now. So, yeah, I feel like it's a slight stretch to say that Zuber could overtake him on that role. 2-time first-team All-Pro in literally the last 2 years, 5 straight Pro Bowls. The guy had 1,500 yards literally last year. That's incredible. He had 18 touchdowns, which led the league a couple of years ago. He's spectacular. So, overall for Zuber, there is one major benefit I feel like for him. That 1 year he played with the Patriots. Josh McDaniels is currently the head coach of the Raiders, so he got a guy that he is familiar with a little bit, and him bringing him on, I feel like it's one of those where it's saying he definitely has a good shot at making it. I really do feel like he can definitely become a third and arguably second stringer on this team. I don't think he'll be a starter whatsoever, but I think he can definitely be a second string, third string, comes in, a few plays when guys are tired and stuff like that. As that connection with McDaniels shows that McDaniels does think something of him to be useful in the offense. So, I feel like of all the players who have signed, aside from Christian Sam, Zuber, I would argue, has really the best shot at making a legit impact on his team. Just because, I know Doug Costin was, solid for that 1 year at Jacksonville, but this Raiders receiving core, once you get past those first 3 or 4 guys, it gets to a bunch of okay, you have a couple okay guys, and then you have a bunch of guys that are undrafted free agents who you just don't think are going to get much time. And actually receivers, you have more of them, there's more chance for injuries, more chance for stepping up. So, I think Zuber has a really solid chance at playing. I guess we'll wait and see, but overall, this has been ZomFox. If you enjoy this content and want to be notified as soon as I upload any videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. And as always, have a great night.